After months of rumours and quiet speculation, the Prince and Princess of Wales finally chose to speak. Their revelation stunned the public and brought the country to a standstill. There was no dramatic flourish, no celebratory announcement, only the restrained grace that has long defined Catherine. On a clear November afternoon in 2024, Kensington Palace issued a message that felt both intimately personal and unmistakably public. The statement confirmed what many had wondered but few expected: William and Catherine would not be having another child. Their family would not grow beyond 3. Endless speculation, optimistic headlines, and repeated questions were finally put to rest with carefully chosen words that reflected deep thought and undeniable sorrow. For months, gossip had swirled without pause. Every photograph was scrutinized, every appearance dissected, each absence questioned. When Catherine withdrew from public engagements in January 2024, conjecture intensified. Many wondered if pregnancy explained her sudden retreat from view. The reality, when it surfaced, was far more serious and sobering than anyone anticipated. What stood out most was the tone of the announcement itself. Unlike the polished, emotionally distant messages typically issued by the palace, this statement carried genuine feeling. It referenced difficult discussions, medical truths, and the need to place health above expectation. While acknowledging public interest, it firmly reasserted boundaries that had too often been ignored. William and Catherine have always balanced tradition with a modern understanding of their roles. They accepted that public fascination was inevitable, but they also believed certain choices should remain theirs alone. Deciding whether to expand their family was deeply personal, yet their position required public acknowledgement. The statement managed that balance, offering clarity without surrendering privacy. The moment chosen to share the news was intentional. With Catherine having completed cancer treatment in September and gradually resuming public life, they waited until she appeared strong and restored. This was not a decision born of fear or emergency, but one made with calm certainty and shared resolve. They wanted it understood that this choice was deliberate and mutual. As expected, public reaction was divided. Some felt disappointment, having embraced the image of an ever-growing royal family. Others praised the couple for their honesty and for placing Catherine's health first. Social media buzzed with commentary, articles appeared almost immediately, and royal analysts offered endless interpretations. Yet beneath the noise ran a quieter sentiment: respect for a couple who had endured profound hardship and remained united. The announcement avoided medical detail, and rightly so. Still, those who followed Catherine's difficult year could read between the lines. Major abdominal surgery, a cancer diagnosis, and months of preventative chemotherapy were not elements of a fairy tale but real, life-altering experiences. The decision not to have another child could not be separated from these realities. What gave the message particular emotional weight was its acknowledgement of hopes left unfulfilled. Those close to the couple revealed that Catherine had once spoken fondly of the idea of a 4th child. William, a devoted and proven father, would have welcomed it as well. But circumstances beyond their control reshaped their future, forcing them to redefine what their family would be. This decision can only be understood through the lens of their shared journey. William and Catherine's story began in 2001 at the University of St. Andrews, where two students met far from the pressures of royal life. Catherine Middleton, grounded and composed, crossed paths with Prince William, heir to an immense legacy who sought normalcy within academic walls. Their relationship grew quietly. Friendship came first, followed by something deeper, as they navigated young love alongside the heavy burden of William's destiny. From the beginning, Catherine displayed the qualities that would define her as a royal partner: steadfast patience, discretion, and calm amid chaos. She never chased attention, yet never avoided responsibility. Their engagement in November 2010 carried deep symbolism. The sapphire and diamond ring once worn by Princess Diana signaled William's intention to bring Catherine into a family marked by loss and scrutiny, doing so with a powerful nod to his mother's memory. The wedding in April 2011 captivated the world while still radiating genuine warmth and joy. Parenthood followed thoughtfully. Prince George was born in July 2013 under intense global focus. Princess Charlotte arrived in May 2015, making history as a daughter whose place in succession could not be displaced. Prince Louis joined them in April 2018, quickly beloved for his lively spirit. Behind the polished public images lay significant hardship. Each pregnancy was complicated by severe hyperemesis gravidarum, leaving Catherine hospitalized during her first and weakened throughout all three. The public saw smiles and photographs, not the exhaustion, weight loss, dehydration, or physical strain endured away from the cameras. Even so, Catherine carried herself with remarkable composure. She reshaped expectations of royal motherhood, appearing publicly soon after childbirth by choice, not obligation. She spoke honestly about parenting challenges while fulfilling her duties and, in subtle but meaningful ways, modernized an institution slow to evolve. Speculation about a fourth child lingered after Louis's birth. Historically, royal families were larger, and precedent existed. But the world had changed, and so had priorities. William and Catherine chose a different path, one defined not by numbers, but by presence, intention, and care. Even so, there were signs that they had once considered the possibility of adding to their family. Catherine was often seen leaning over babies during public appearances and spoke fondly about the early months of motherhood. During a visit to Northern Ireland in 2020, William joked that they should be kept away from new parents in case they were tempted to have another child. These small moments sparked speculation and optimism among those who closely followed their lives. Yet beneath the light-hearted comments and affectionate gestures lay practical considerations. Having 3 children meant 1 child for each adult hand when traveling without staff. It allowed them to fit comfortably into ordinary vehicles and standard accommodations without special arrangements. As William once remarked in a frank interview, they were outnumbered, but still managing. The reality of their medical journey began quietly in January 2024, which initially seemed like any other start to the year at Kensington Palace. The Wales family had spent the holidays at Sandringham, the children returned to school, and Catherine was preparing for a busy schedule of engagements stretching into spring. Then came an announcement that brought everything to a halt. The Princess of Wales had been admitted to the London clinic for a planned abdominal operation. The statement released to the public was intentionally vague, noting that the surgery was successful and not connected to cancer. It was explained that Catherine would remain in hospital for up to 2 weeks before continuing her recovery at home, and that she would step back from public duties until after Easter, a timeframe that hinted at the seriousness of the situation. The public waited anxiously for news, but updates were scarce. William was photographed leaving the hospital, his expression marked by worry. Meanwhile, the children maintained their daily routines, protected from media attention by their parents' firm requests and by a press corps that largely respected those boundaries. Catherine stayed out of public view, recovering in a level of privacy that most patients deserve but few royals ever receive. When she was discharged 13 days later, only a brief glimpse was captured by photographers. The woman known for her energy and poise appeared noticeably thinner and more fragile, a striking contrast to the image of strength the public had long associated with her. She returned to Adelaide Cottage in Windsor, where she would spend several weeks away from all official responsibilities. Then, in March, came a video message that no one wanted to hear. Sitting on a bench in the Windsor Gardens, addressing the camera with William seated beside her, Catherine shared the truth. Tests conducted after her surgery had revealed cancer, and she had begun a course of preventative chemotherapy. She asked the public to respect her family's privacy, especially for the sake of her children. As the family came to terms with this new reality, the news landed heavily across the nation. Catherine was just 42 years old, widely seen as a symbol of health and vitality. She was a mother of 3 young children who depended on her. And yet, she was facing the same illness that affects millions, one that makes no distinction between status and circumstance. The emotion in her voice, the quiet resolve in her posture, and the protective way William rested his hand on her knee conveyed more than words ever could. Medical specialists soon offered explanations to help the public understand. Preventative chemotherapy, they said, is given after surgery to destroy any remaining cancer cells. While precautionary, it is far from mild. Side effects can be severe, including exhaustion, nausea, hair loss, and a weakened immune system. Many patients report feeling worse during treatment than they did before receiving their diagnosis. Catherine endured months of this demanding process. She initially missed Trooping the Colour in June, but later surprised everyone by appearing on the palace balcony, visibly thinner yet smiling. She also attended Wimbledon, a tradition close to her heart, where she was greeted with a standing ovation that moved many to tears. Each public appearance was carefully planned, timed for moments when she felt strong enough to face the crowds and cameras. In September, she announced that her treatment had ended. While there was a sense of relief, there was also a clear understanding that recovery would take time. Chemotherapy leaves lasting effects on the body. Healing is gradual, requiring time to rebuild strength and regain a sense of normalcy. For a woman in her early 40s who had already experienced 3 challenging pregnancies and had spent 9 months fighting for her health, the prospect of another pregnancy became far more complex. Medical professionals speaking anonymously emphasized that pregnancy after cancer treatment can be possible, but it demands careful planning. Questions remain about timing, physical recovery, and the risks associated with hormonal changes following chemotherapy. At Catherine's age, there are further considerations about what is medically recommended versus what might simply be possible in theory. Alongside these realities is the responsibility of raising 3 children under extraordinary circumstances. Prince George of Wales turned 11 in July 2024, displaying a maturity shaped by challenges no child should have to face. As second in line to the throne, he carries expectations his siblings do not. He represents continuity, tradition, and a future role as king. Yet his parents have worked tirelessly to give him a childhood that feels as normal as possible. George attends Lambrook School in Berkshire with Charlotte and Louis, travelling each day from Adelaide Cottage. He plays football, takes swimming lessons, and joins in school performances and sports days. While his classmates know his identity, they also know him simply as George, a boy who loves helicopters and can be shy in large groups. William and Catherine have been determined to balance his future responsibilities with the need to protect his present. When Catherine became ill, George understood more than his parents might have hoped. He was old enough to read headlines, overhear conversations, and sense the strain within his family. William later spoke openly about how difficult it was to explain cancer to children, and about the challenge of being truthful without causing fear. George, he said, had been remarkably brave, taking on a protective role toward his younger siblings that was both touching and concerning. Princess Charlotte, 9 years old, has emerged as a force of nature in her own right. She shares her mother's poise and her father's determination, a combination that palace insiders suggest will make her a formidable royal in her own right. During Catherine's illness, Charlotte became her mother's shadow when allowed, offering comfort in ways that only a daughter can. The bond between them, always strong, deepened through adversity. Charlotte represents something significant in the royal lineage. Due to changes in succession laws enacted in 2013, she cannot be displaced by Louis or any future younger brothers. She is 4th in line to the throne and will remain so unless George has children. This makes her unique in the modern monarchy. A daughter who holds her place by right rather than by accident of birth order. Prince Louis, the baby of the family at 6 years old, has provided comic relief during the darkest moments. His antics at public events, his uninhibited joy, his complete lack of awareness regarding his own significance. These qualities have endeared him to millions. During Catherine's treatment, Louis continued to be Louis, demanding attention, offering sticky-fingered affection, reminding his parents that life continues even when it feels suspended. William and Catherine's parenting philosophy has been shaped by their own experiences. William grew up in the gilded cage of palace life. His childhood marked by his parents' acrimonious separation and his mother's tragic death when he was just 15. He has spoken openly about the therapy he required to process that trauma, about the years it took to find peace. He has determined that his children will have what he did not have. 2 parents who love each other, stability, privacy when possible, and agency over their own narratives. Catherine, raised outside the royal bubble, brought a different perspective. Her childhood in Bucklebury was comfortable but normal, filled with family holidays and village activities. She understands the value of ordinariness, of children who do chores, and understands that privilege comes with responsibility. Together, she and William have created an environment for their children that honors both their extraordinary circumstances and their fundamental humanity. 3 children fit that vision perfectly. George, Charlotte, and Louis form a tight unit, each with defined roles and relationships. Adding a 4th would shift the dynamic in ways both predictable and unknown. There would be a significant age gap. Louise would be at least 7 years older than a new sibling. Changing the family structure from 3 contemporaries to 3 older children and a baby. Beyond the practical considerations, there is the question of attention and presence. William and Catherine have made it clear that they want to be hands-on parents, not in the performative way of previous generations, but in the everyday sense of school runs and bedtime stories and homework help. They already struggle to balance their increasing royal duties with their family commitments. Adding another child would strain that balance further, potentially to the breaking point. The decision behind closed doors. The conversation had been ongoing for years, but it took on new urgency in the aftermath of Catherine's diagnosis. In the quiet moments between treatments, during the long nights when sleep was elusive and the future uncertain, William and Catherine talked about what they wanted their lives to look like. They talked about their children, their marriage, their health, and yes, about whether there would ever be a 4th child. Catherine had always been more open to the idea. She came from a close family of 3 siblings and had often spoken warmly of large families. In an ideal world, one unmarred by illness and unburdened by duty, she might have welcomed another baby. But this was not an ideal world, and the decision before them required clear-eyed pragmatism rather than wishful thinking. William's perspective was shaped by different considerations. He had watched his wife suffer through 3 difficult pregnancies. He had seen her hospitalized with hyperemesis gravidarum and had witnessed the toll it took on her body and spirit. He had also watched her navigate the impossible demands of royal life while caring for 3 young children, and he knew intimately the sacrifices she made daily. The idea of asking her to do it all again, especially after what she had just endured, was unconscionable to him. They consulted with medical professionals. Of course, Catherine's oncology team provided clear guidance about recovery timelines and the advisability of pregnancy after chemotherapy. The consensus was cautious but not prohibitive. If they waited a sufficient period, if Catherine's health remained stable, if they were willing to accept certain risks, another pregnancy was theoretically possible. But theoretical possibility and lived reality are vastly different things. Catherine was honest with herself and with William about what her body had been through. The surgery had been major, the recovery lengthy. The chemotherapy had left her depleted in ways that were not immediately visible, but were deeply felt. At 42, she was not the same woman who had carried Louis 6 years earlier. Age, experience, and illness had all left their marks. There were other voices in the conversation as well. King Charles himself, dealing with his own cancer diagnosis announced in February of 2024, understood implicitly what his daughter-in-law was facing. He had been unfailingly supportive, adjusting expectations and workload to accommodate her recovery. When consulted about the question of a 4th grandchild, he was unequivocal. Catherine's health came first, and the family they had was blessed enough. Queen Camilla, who had navigated her own complicated path to acceptance within the royal family, offered Catherine the perspective of someone who had survived palace pressures through sheer determination. She reminded the younger woman that there was no script that had to be followed, no expectation that was worth sacrificing well-being to meet. The monarchy would adapt as it always had. The public's opinion, while not determinative, was also a factor. Polls conducted throughout 2024 showed overwhelming support for Catherine and genuine concern for her recovery. When asked whether the Wales family should have more children, the majority of respondents indicated that it was a personal decision that should be made without regard for public expectation. This was a marked shift from earlier decades when royal fertility was considered a matter of national interest. William and Catherine also considered their existing children's perspectives, though not in explicit terms. George, Charlotte, and Louis had adjusted to their family size. They had their own dynamics, their own relationships, their own sense of how their family worked. Introducing a new sibling would require adjustments from all of them, and the timing was particularly delicate given what they had just been through. The final decision crystallized during a private conversation in late October. They were at Anmer Hall, their country retreat in Norfolk, enjoying a rare weekend away from obligations. The children were playing in the garden, their laughter carrying through open windows. Catherine and William watched them, and in that moment, the answer became clear. Their family was complete, not because they could not have more children, but because they chose not to. It was an affirmative decision made from a place of gratitude for what they had rather than longing for what they did not. What this means for the monarchy. The announcement that William and Catherine would not have a fourth child might seem like a purely personal matter, but in the context of the royal family, every decision carries institutional weight. This one is no exception. It speaks to evolving attitudes within the monarchy, to changing expectations from the public, and to the delicate balance between duty and humanity that defines modern royalty. For the immediate line of succession, the practical implications are minimal. George remains second in line, Charlotte fourth, and Louis fifth. Together, they represent the future of the monarchy stretching decades into the future. Barring unforeseen tragedy, the succession is secure. This removes what was once a primary justification for large royal families: the need for spare heirs in case of emergency. Looking at other European monarchies provides useful context. Crown Princess Victoria of Sweden has 2 children. Crown Prince Frederick of Denmark, now King Frederick, has 4, but his wife, Crown Princess Mary, has spoken openly about the challenges of that number. King Felipe of Spain has 2 daughters. The trend across Europe is towards smaller royal families, reflecting broader societal shifts regarding family size and work-life balance. The decision also reflects changing attitudes about women's autonomy, even royal women. Previous generations of royal consorts were expected to produce heirs and spare heirs, their value often measured in their fertility. Diana, Princess of Wales, produced 2 sons and was largely left alone after that. Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, had 2 children despite experiencing difficulties. Catherine's choice to stop at 3 for reasons rooted in her own health and preferences represents a quiet revolution in how royal women are perceived and treated. Public response to the announcement has been overwhelmingly supportive, suggesting that the British people have evolved in their relationship with the monarchy. There is still fascination with royal life, still interest in the personalities and activities of the family, but there is also increasing respect for boundaries, increasing acknowledgement that royals are human beings with rights to privacy and self-determination. This support has been particularly evident in how the media has covered Catherine's health journey. While there were certainly moments of overreach, particularly during the early months of her absence when speculation ran rampant, the overall tone has been one of concern and respect. The vicious coverage that characterized earlier eras, the invasive paparazzi culture that contributed to Diana's death, these seem to have given way to something more measured. The decision also has implications for how William and Catherine will approach their royal duties going forward. With their family complete, they can focus their energies on the causes they champion and the modernization efforts they have championed. William's work on homelessness and conservation can deepen. Catherine's focus on early childhood development can expand. They can travel more extensively, take on more patronages, increase their presence on the world stage. For George, Charlotte, and Louis, this decision means their family unit will remain as they have known it. There will be no baby siblings to adjust to, no shifting of attention and resources. They can continue to grow together to develop the strong sibling bonds that will serve them well in the unique positions they occupy. This stability, particularly after the uncertainty of 2024, is invaluable. The broader message this sends about the monarchy is equally significant. By making and announcing this deeply personal decision, William and Catherine have humanized the institution in ways that edicts and proclamations never could. They have shown that even future kings and queens make choices based on love, health, and practical considerations. They have reminded the public that the crown sits on a human head and that humanity must be honored if the institution is to survive. Critics might argue that royal families should be larger, that 3 children is insufficient for an institution meant to project stability and continuity, but this criticism feels outdated, rooted in assumptions about family size that no longer reflect contemporary values. Most British families have 1 or 2 children. 3 is already larger than average, and the Wales children are growing up with advantages and opportunities that ensure the continuation of their line. Looking ahead, the next chapters of the Wales family story will be written without the subplot of another pregnancy, another birth, another royal baby to captivate the public imagination. Instead, the focus will shift to watching George, Charlotte, and Louise grow, to seeing William and Catherine mature into the roles they will one day fully inhabit, and to observing how this family navigates the extraordinary pressures of their positions while maintaining the ordinary joys that make life worth living. The confirmation that Prince William and Princess Catherine will not have a fourth child marks the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. It is a decision born of love, shaped by adversity, and made with eyes wide open to its implications. In choosing to prioritize Catherine's health and their existing family's well-being, they have demonstrated the very qualities that will make them exceptional monarchs: wisdom, compassion, and the courage to forge their own path.